I want to kind of throw this tangent line here, which is very, very relevant. I define Jieh Dao as a trifold art. It's a trifold art. Chinese translation to English is trifold art, which means that our physical action in martial arts, that self-defense motion that we exhibit as a martial artist, as a student, is fueled basically and controlled, and it is a translation of ultimately our character. It's a translation of our personality, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. They show themselves, manifest themselves in a physical action. Meaning, to learn the art of self-defense, one has to learn to have the character to be able to learn that skill, the art of self-defense. Learning martial arts really is no different than any other craft or skill. They all require discipline. And discipline, when it's understood and practiced correctly, brings about correct results in our lives. Other skills, engineering, other professions, you go to university, you have to have discipline to study, to learn the skill so that you can graduate and go to work and put that skill to use to make money and to live. Let's say compare martial art with, as an example, tennis or basketball or any other sports, badminton, any other sports that you want to name. Yes, they all require very hard work. Gymnastics, as an example, extremely difficult. You have to put a lot of effort into it. Any of those sports require self-discipline. But martial arts is a lot more than that. It goes beyond that because you're learning an art and a skill that you can fight other human beings or adversaries. It's different than hitting a ball with your bat. Hitting a ball with your foot. It's different than running a track. It's different than jumping in a pool and doing 50 laps. Yes, those are the foes that each sport has to face. But martial arts is a lot different because we're learning the art to face other human beings that can think and act and have their own personality. It's very difficult, and the level of self-defense and basically the character that is required to accomplish this task, meaning gaining this skill to overcome those adversaries, has to be at the highest level. Now, a healthy, correct, and pure martial art institution is that avenue that such achievement is possible. It is and should be viewed as precious and honorable by the public, as it was in the early times of martial arts, as we can trace it back several thousand years ago. And even 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Well, don't need to go that far. And the students and the public should treat it as a praiseworthy institution in general, simply because through a genuine martial arts institution and academy, students learn to preserve lives. That's facing the foes, facing the adversaries for the purpose of self-preservation, purpose of human preservation, purpose of protecting your family, your loved ones, your friends' lives, protecting the innocent, because aggression and evil will never cease. It's always going to be there until our Lord come back. But the fact is that even then, it's still going to be there for 1,000 years, but that's a different topic. But the fact is that we are dealing with danger against human lives, danger from other human beings. Now, the old ancient time, they not only had to learn the art of self-defense to protect their society against the enemies, aggression that came toward them, but also against animals, the wild animals. Right now, you don't see tigers running around on the street, or you don't see wild hogs running on the street of freeways or highways or byways, because they have contained them. In the old time, it wasn't like that. They lived in forests, they lived in fortresses that was surrounded by forests and valleys and fields, so they had to learn to protect themselves against the wild animals as well. So all natural aggression was their foe, and their top foe was obviously the human being, other culture, other societies that would fight and attack them. So as a result, for example, Shaolin Temple was basically built for that reason. It was an environment that students learn the art of combative self-defense to protect their society, their fortress, the area that people live against the enemies. They learn to protect and defend freedom and they learn to safeguard that which is pronounced sacred by God. What is that? Human life itself. Of course, there are schools that try to achieve this goal. I've said this before, earlier. There are schools that do this. Not all schools are just violent or waste of people's money. It's not just for business driven. That's another area that I didn't touch. There's a lot of schools that their focus basically is how to get rich from the students. And that was not the original goal, intent of martial arts. Original goal, intent of martial arts had nothing to do with becoming rich. In the past, we've had students that didn't have money. They couldn't pay the tuition. So I just let them train. Even loaned them money to buy gears, gave them money to buy equipment that they needed, because I didn't want them to stop. Once they start training, it's difficult to stop and then get back to it again. One is the motivation goes away. The other one is just your muscles and just the whole body, your cardio all just regresses back. Once you start training, you want to keep going. So the goal of a lot of the schools is just how to get rich, how to milk the students, milk their pocketbooks, and how to build this empire so they can just keep making dollar after dollar after dollar. And what are they giving back to them, to the students? For the most part, a lot of them give nothing back. But there are schools that do. There are a lot of schools, good instructors, true instructors with a real heart that do give back to the students. And their purpose is to develop the students' character and their art of self-defense, their skills. So they do exist, but they are not so common to find. Not necessarily referring to the total effectiveness of their art, but their goal and purpose is such. So not really discussing the one art, how efficient is it from another art, one school from another school. I'm not talking about there are schools that do exist, though they're scarce, but they do exist, that they truly try to teach what they know to the student and develop some character, good characters in their disciples. And we're talking about, this is exactly what we do in here in Jieh Dao Academy. And I've had the privilege of talking to hundreds of students and instructors that had expressed their sense of appreciation for what they saw, experienced, and gained through our academy. Now, granted that traditional martial arts homes and dormitories, as they were in the ancient Asia, are no longer applicable for the most part, or I haven't seen any here, at least in the 21st century, unfortunately. I wish that was not the case. I wish that we could have a school, almost like a university with a dormitory in it, that they can come and live in there, much like Bruce's movie Fist of Fury. That was the very classical, in that era, very classical period that each clan or the school had their own disciples housed in their own territory, in their own domain, their own academy. It was like a home. Again, I repeat, but the importance and values that has been their goal to instill in their pupils is not impossible to achieve. And this is exactly what Jieh Dao attempts to achieve. It is to build a genuine skill and the associated characters, that's the key, characters, that students need in order to achieve excellence in their martial arts education. Now, proper bonding, balance, and appropriate giving of oneself as a student has always been the primal motto of our school.